The young woman gets off the bus at the wrong point and feels hostile glances, but when a black car begins to follow her, she can't imagine that this persecution will reveal a secret that will change everything forever. The bus stopped with a brake squeak, and Maya descended quickly, checking the cell phone while the fine rain wet her curly hair. At 22, she worked as a nurse at the Central Hospital and was coming home after a 12-hour duty. The tiredness made her lose the right stop, and now she was in a neighborhood she didn't know well. The streets were wider here, the larger houses, with well-kept gardens and imported cars in the garages. Maya adjusted the backpack strap and started walking, looking for a reference in the mobile GPS. It was not long before I realized the curious eyes of some passing people. An elderly lady watched her from the window, frowning. A man who watered the garden stopped what he did to stare it. If you are enjoying this story, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Also comment from which city you are watching and write the word justice if you believe everyone deserves, regardless of skin color. Maya tried to ignore the uncomfortable feeling that grew in her chest. She knew how to recognize that kind of look, the same one she sometimes received at the hospital when some patients questioned her competence before she even met her. But this time, it was different. There was something more intense, almost threatening. That's when he heard the snoring of an engine behind him, a black car with dark glass, decreased speed, following its steps. Maya pretended not to notice, but her heart began to accelerate. The vehicle followed it by 2 blocks, always keeping the same distance. Was she really in danger? Or was her tired mind creating ghosts where they didn't exist? Maya grew up in a simple neighborhood across the city, created by her grandmother Rosa, after losing her parents in an accident when she was only 8 years old. Rosa, a strong woman who worked her entire life as a domestic, always taught her granddaughter that education was the only true weapon against prejudice. "Study, girl," she said, "because knowledge is the only thing no one can get from you." And Maya studied. He graduated in nursing with full scholarship, standing out among the best in the class. Now he worked at the most respected hospital in the city, where his competence spoke louder than any prejudice. But still, moments like this one remembered her that for some people, she would never be seen beyond the color of her skin. The neighborhood where it was known as Jardim das Flores, a residential area of the upper middle class. The houses followed an elegant architectural pattern with low walls and ornamental gardens. It was the kind of place where Maya dreamed of living one day, when she managed to raise enough money to give her grandmother the comfort she deserved. The black car was still there like a silent shadow. Maya could see from the reflection of the showcases that there was 2 people in the vehicle, a man behind the wheel and one in the passenger seat. They did not make a point of hiding. On the contrary, they seemed to want her to know it was being followed. Maya accelerated her step, turning on a side street that, according to GPS, would take her back to the main avenue, but the car accompanied it, making the same curve. Now there was no doubt she was being chased. Maya's heart beat so strong that she could hear him in the ears. The black car was now closer, and she could see the occupants better from the side rear-view mirror. The driver was a middle-aged man, grey hair, wearing a dark suit. The passenger looked younger, perhaps in the 30 house, with a black cap that shaded his face. Maya tried to enter a store, but realized that most establishments had already closed. It was almost 9 at night, and the streets started to get deserted. She took the cell phone, thinking of calling the police, but hesitated. What would you say? That was being followed by a car. With no concrete evidence of threat, he doubted they would take his complaint seriously. It was then that the car accelerated and stopped beside him. The window went down slowly, revealing the driver's face. He was a serious-looking man with cold eyes that analyzed her, as if she were an object. "Hey, you there," he said, with a rough voice. "You're not from here, are you?" Maya kept walking, pretending not to hear, but the car accompanied her. "I'm talking to you, girl. This is not your place." The passenger laughed, an unpleasant sound that made Maya shake. "I think she got lost, Chief. How about helping her find her way back?" Maya hurried her step further, but the car continued by her side. Other people on the street began to notice the situation, but no one approached to help. Some even stopped to observe as if it were a show. "Look, we don't want problems," said the driver, now with a falsely friendly tone. "We just think you would be more comfortable elsewhere." Maya finally stopped and stared at them. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I have the right to be anywhere I want." The man's smile disappeared. "Right?" He laughed with contempt. Here who decides on rights are us, and we decided that you don't belong to this place." The passenger opened the car door as if to get down. Maya felt the panic take over her body. She needed to leave, and fast. Maya ran. Her nursing sneakers, projected for long hours standing, now helping her gain distance from the pursuers. Behind her, heard doors knocking and heavy steps on the asphalt. The black car accelerated, trying to accompany her through the parallel streets. She turned around a corner and almost collided with a woman who walked with her dog. The lady, a white woman with platinum hair, looked at Maya from below with suspicion. "Please," Maya gasped, "help me. There are some men chasing me." The woman backed away, pulling the dog close to her. I can't get involved in that." She rushed her step in the opposite direction, leaving Maya alone again. Maya kept running, but realized she didn't know those streets well. Each corner looked the same as the previous one, and the mobile phone GPS showed that it was further away from the main avenue. Worse yet, the battery was almost over. That's when he saw a lighted light in a small house. Unlike the others, it was simpler, with a less ornate garden. On the porch, a black man of approximately 60 years felled some plants. Maya hesitated for a moment. Would it be safe to trust a stranger? But the steps behind her were getting closer. "Sir, please," she shouted, running toward the house. "Help me." The man, who was called Samuel, immediately realized the despair in the young woman's voice. He had lived in that neighborhood for over 20 years, working as a gardener for many of the rich families in the region. He knew the kind of situation Maya was facing. "Enter, fast," he said, opening the gate. "My wife is making tea. You're safe here." Maya ran, and Samuel closed the gate quickly, watching the street with experienced eyes. Inside the simple but welcoming house, Maya was received by Anna, Samuel's wife, a black woman with gray hair and warm smile, who immediately offered water and a place to sit. Maya quickly explained what had happened, still shaking with adrenaline. Samuel listened closely, shaking his head with knowledge of the cause. "Unfortunately, this is not new here," he said. "These two men, I know them. San Carlos and Roberto, children of the owner of the largest real estate in the region." Anna served hot tea for Maya. "They have been doing this for years. They intimidate any black person who appears in the neighborhood. They think they are the owners of the place." "But why?" Maya asked, still trying to sue what had happened. Samuel sighed deeply. "Because it works. Most people get scared and never come back. And when someone tries to denounce, they have enough influence for nothing to happen." It was then that Samuel made a revelation that would change everything. But this time it may be different. "Did you say you work at the Central Hospital?" Maya nodded. "So you should meet Dr. Martinez, the director." "Yes, I know. He's my direct supervisor." "Why?" Samuel and Anna exchanged a significant look. "Because Dr. Martinez is our foster son," Anna said calmly. "We have been raising him since he was 5, when he lost his parents in an accident." Maya was gaping. Dr. Martinez, one of the most respected doctors in the city, known for his integrity and sense of justice, had been created by that humble couple. "He always told us that if we ever needed anything," Samuel continued, "and I think it's time to charge this promise." Anna was already taking the phone. "Let's call him now. It's time for these bullies to learn that not everyone in this neighborhood condone what they do." Maya realized that her terrible night was about to turn into something much bigger. Dr. Martinez answered the phone on the second call. Even though it was almost 10 at night, his voice sounded alert when he recognized Anna's voice. "Mom, did something happen?" Anna quickly explained the situation by passing the phone to Maya, who reported the details of the chase. "Doctor." Martinez's voice changed completely when he learned that one of his nurses had been the victim of racial intimidation. "Maya, you're okay. Physically, I say. I'm doctor, but it was very scary. Listen well." His voice was firm and determined. "This won't be like this. Samuel and Anna told me about these two before, but we never had a victim willing to formalize a complaint." Maya hesitated. Making a complaint meant exposure, perhaps reprisals. But then he thought of his grandmother, the lessons about never lowering his head in the face of injustice. "Top, yes, doctor. Perfect. I'm going to call some of my contacts. I have friends in the prosecution and the press. These men think they can intimidate people impunity, but they will find that they have chosen the wrong victim this time." While Dr. Martinez made his calls, Samuel showed Maya some photos on his cell phone. These were images of other people who had been intimidated in the neighborhood over the years. Black young people, Latin families, even some Asian elderly. "I occulted everything," he said. "I always knew that one day this information would be useful." Anna put her hand on Maya's shoulder. "Honey, you don't know yet, but tonight you are not just a victim. You have become the key to ending years of intimidation and racism in this neighborhood." Maya felt a mixture of fear and determination growing in her chest. In the following hours, Samuel and Anna's house became a center of operations. Dr. Martinez arrived in person, accompanied by a prosecutor named Dr. Silva, a determined woman who had been investigating cases of racial discrimination in the region for years. Maya, who initially felt only as a frightened victim, began to realize the power of her voice. When she told her story to the prosecutor, every detail was carefully documented. The photos Samuel had collected over the years provided a clear pattern of discriminatory behavior. "Maya," said Dr. Silva, "your courage to talk can help dozens of other people who have gone through the same situation but were silent." Dr. Martinez added, "In the hospital, I've always admired your dedication and professionalism. Now I see that your strength goes far beyond work." Maya felt something changing inside her. The young woman who had gotten out of the bus a few hours earlier, worried only about getting home, now she saw herself as part of something bigger. She thought of her grandmother Rosa, who had always faced prejudice with dignity, and knew it was time to honor this legacy. "I want to do more than just a complaint," Maya said, surprising herself with firmness in her voice. "I want this to serve as an example. May other people know they don't have to accept this type of treatment." Samuel smiled proudly. "This is the attitude we need." Anna brought more tea and home cookies. "Honey, you transformed what could have been just another terrible night into a real change opportunity." Maya looked around the room, seeing faces certain united by a common purpose. She was no longer alone, and she was no longer afraid. The next morning, things started to move quickly. Dr. Martinez used his influence at the hospital to ensure that Maya had the day off, while Dr. Silva organized the evidence to present to the judge. Samuel revealed that there was much more documentation than they imagined. For years, he has maintained a detailed diary of incidents of discrimination in the neighborhood, including dates, times, and witnesses. There were even audio recordings of some situations made discreetly with your mobile phone. "Why have you never denounced before?" Maya asked. "Because I knew I needed the right moment. The right person," Samuel replied. "Someone with credibility, support, the courage to go to the end. You're this person, Maya." Meanwhile, Carlos and Roberto continued their lives normally, without imagining the approaching storm. They had intimidated Maya, thinking it would just be another case that would be without consequences. Dr. Silva explained the strategy. "Let's ask for an immediate restriction order against them based on the evidence of intimidation. At the same time, let's open a criminal investigation for racial discrimination and threat." Dr. Martinez added, "And I'm going to use my media contacts. This story needs to be known, not just to expose these two, but to show that our community does not tolerate discrimination." Maya felt a cold in her belly. "Do you think they will try some reprisal?" "You can try," said Dr. Silva, "but now they're being observed, and besides, you're no longer alone in this fight." Samuel's phone rang. He was a local journalist interested in history. The justice gear had begun to spin. The final confrontation took place 3 days later at the district court. Maya arrived accompanied by Dr. Martinez, Samuel, Anna, and Dr. Silva. On the other hand, Carlos and Roberto were with their lawyers Expensive, confident that they could get rid of the accusations as they always did. But this time it was different. The room was full of journalists and civil rights activists. The story had gained repercussion on social networks, with the hashtag Darn Justice para Maya spreading quickly. When Maya went up to the witness bench, her voice was firm and clear. She told her story with details, from the moment she got out of the bus to the chase through the streets of the neighborhood. Each word was loaded with dignity and determination. Carlos and Roberto tried to minimize the situation. His lawyers claimed it was a misunderstanding, that they just wanted to guide a young woman who seemed lost. It was then that Samuel was called to testify. He presented years of documentation, photos, recordings, and testimonials from other victims who, inspired by Maya's courage, finally decided to speak. "Your Excellency," Samuel said, looking straight at the judge, "for 20 years I saw these men terrorize innocent people. Whole families have changed neighborhood because of intimidation. Young people have stopped attending public areas for fear. This is not an isolated case. It is a systematic pattern of racial discrimination. The most impactful moment came when Dr. Martinez witnessed the character of Maya and how discrimination affected not only direct victims, but the whole community. Carlos, seeing that the situation was running away from control, lost the composure. "This is ridiculous. We have the right to protect our neighborhood from—" He stopped in the middle of the sentence, realizing that he had just incriminated. The judge looked at him severely. "Protect what exactly, Mr. Carlos?" The silence in the room was deafening. Roberto tried to control the damage, but it was too late. The mask had fallen, and everyone could see the prejudice behind the actions of the two men. Maya felt tears of relief running down her face. Finally, the truth was being heard. The judge did not hesitate to his decision. Carlos and Roberto were convicted of racial intimidation and threat, receiving heavy fines and mandatory community services in organizations that fight racism. In addition, an order of restriction prohibited them from approaching Maya or anyone for discriminatory reasons. But the real victory went far beyond the court ruling. Maya's story inspired a profound change in the Jardim das Flores neighborhood. Residents who once were silent in the face of discrimination began to organize, creating a neighborhood committee dedicated to inclusion and mutual respect. Dr. Martinez used his influence to establish a program at the hospital, offering lectures on diversity and combating racism. "Maya has shown us that a brave person can make a difference to an entire community," he said during the first lecture. Samuel and Anna became respected figures in the local civil rights movement. Samuel's diary was transformed into an official document, helping other discrimination victims to find justice. Maya returned to work at the hospital with a new perspective. She was no longer just a competent nurse. She was a symbol of resistance and dignity. Colleagues who previously barely greeted her, now looking for advice and support. The pink grandmother, when she learned of the whole story, wept with pride. "You did exactly what I always knew I would do, girl. Used her strength to change the world." Maya realized that that terrible night had become the most important experience of her life. She had discovered that her voice had power, and that justice, though sometimes it takes, always finds a way when brave people get up to defend it. 6 months later, Maya finally managed to move to a house in the Jardim das Flores neighborhood. Not by intimidation or fear, but by his own choice. The house was 2 blocks from Samuel and Anna's residence, which became as adoptive grandparents for her. The neighborhood had completely changed. "Everyone is welcome" plates appeared in several houses, and an annual diversity festival was established, celebrating the different cultures that made up the community. Carlos and Roberto, after fulfilling their community services, made public apologies. Although Maya has accepted the excuses with grace, she always remembered that the true change is measured by actions, not the words. Maya continued to work at the hospital, but now she also devoted time to talk to schools and universities about her experience. Its story has become an example of how individual courage can generate collective transformation. Grandma Rosa moved to a smaller house in the same neighborhood, finally being able to enjoy the comfort that has always deserved. On Sunday afternoons, she and Maya walked through the same streets where it all began, now as living symbols that justice and dignity always prevail. If you watched this far, comment, "I watched until the end," and share your reflection on this story. Maya's journey shows us that a single brave person can transform an entire community. Her determination not to accept injustice created waves of change that benefited not only it, but dozens of other people who suffered in silence. What lesson in Maya's story most touched you? Share in the comments and don't forget to click on the next video that will appear on your screen. We have more inspiring stories waiting for you. Together we can build a fairer and more respectful world for everyone.